Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. I got my IT problem solved. Lance, interesting costume you're wearing today.
Bob, this is my SBA 504 shirt.
From Scott.
A kind CDC executive sent me a shirt with my name on it, all wrong side, my name on it, and a brand of beer on the other side.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Anyway, yeah, I got my shirt. Scott was kind enough to send everyone shirts, and that was Scott. I think we told you, but again, thank you very much. That was.
I was hopeful, Bob, that Scott would be on today, Bob.
Yeah, well, and knowing you don't want the shirt, you want the beer. Anyway, let's move on. Let's see. Thank you all for joining us. You know about the certificates. Download those. That helps satisfy the question. When SBA comes and reviews your portfolio, what are you doing for training, your auditors? This works. Number one, the SBA Inspector General came out with their annual top challenges. Usually they call it the top 10 challenges. This year, just calling it the top management and performance challenges facing the Small Business Administration in fiscal year 2020. And according to the Inspector General, what do they say is SBA's top challenge?
Boy, Bob, this is a tough one because they're all good answers. I would go with the idle challenge and the PPP susceptible to abuse and fraud is my primaries.
Well, I'm gonna give everyone a pass because all four of these were. I'm sorry. The one that what was the one we made up, Joseph?
That's the next question.
Oh, the next question. All right. Yeah.
Okay, everybody, that's a hint.
That's a hint. All of these are correct. All of these are correct. So, in other words, the PPP, subject to abuse and fraud, it's interesting. We're going to talk about some numbers on that. High-risk lending, they have different definitions of high-risk lending. No more than you have your definitions of high-risk borrowers. Phenomenal growth is a red flag. Again, red flags aren't bad. All it means is stop and assess. And a lot to a specific NAICS bucket. They're interested in that. And normal things, in other words, that we're in an industry, as we're concerned, all of a sudden, Lance, your manufacturer walks in and says, "Great news, Lance, 82% of my sales go to Walmart. Aren't you proud of me?"
I am, but I need to assess that because now I'm a big Walmart fan, Bob, not because I shop there as much as some people do, but because it's in my backyard. But certainly there's some risk involved when you have one customer that accounts for 82% of your sales. Some of the other things that are concerning for high-risk lending partners, they look at the percentage of your loans that you sell in the secondary market.
Right.
While that's a great source of income, if you sell more than 75% of your loans, it doesn't mean you're a high-risk lender, Bob, but it's something they'll take a look at.
And if you're a high risk, this isn't going to come out of the blue. If you're a high-risk lender, they're going to tell you you're a high-risk lender. Go ahead.
Another category they look at, Bob, is the percentage of your loans that are over $2 million.
Look at your Paris scores, compare yourself, benchmark yourself with everyone else. That Paris report is amazing. There's a lot of good information in there. So that's what you want to do. Okay, this is one of these are made up. So which of the following is not a high-risk factor for SBA according to the Inspector General?
I know the wrong answer, Bob.
What is it?
Oversight of the Community Advantage program.
And yeah, that's the wrong answer. Very good. Obviously, it is a factor that they're looking at, but all these other things, yeah, oversight of high-risk lenders, that's a concern. The loan agents keeps coming up and up and up. Lance, they've been talking about this for 20 plus years. They've been talking about a registry. I do know they're making changes on the 159. The plan is to eventually track the loan brokers as they track lenders and track their defaults and their default rates and para scores. I know they want to expand it to loan agents. They just haven't done that yet. I assume it's a problem with data. Again, nothing wrong with using loan agents, but the SBA wants you to put that in your credit policy on how you use them and how you compensate them and what is the relationship lens. And also make sure you do a SAM.gov clearance of them.
The one, Bob, lender service providers, there is some increased risk. The other, but on the opposite side, Bob, lender service providers can help a small SBA participant lender avoid risk. So it's kind of a mixed bag with LSPs, and I think that's probably on a heightened level because of the trial that Joseph and Delaney covered. That is the Carrie Agee story happened several years ago, but it got brought back up with the trial occurring this year. But lender service providers can certainly help small SBA lenders be more compliant.
I think SBA's attitude is this. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think their attitude is lender service providers are fine for overflow, for another set of eyes, for maybe doing a tough liquidation analysis, or those are fine. What they're concerned about is if you do not have the core competency in your shop to underwrite, service, liquidate these loans. And if you don't have that ability, they do not want you to rely solely on an outside source. Is that a fair statement, Lance?
Well, and in the SOP, SBA has included language about that relationship with the LSP, and just because you use one doesn't mean that you don't have to have skilled SBA team members at your bank.
Remember, if you use one, there needs to be a contract. SBA has to sign off on that contract. I'm assuming, Lance, a one-off, if they're going to do a help out on a liquidation plan, you don't need a contract for that, correct? Am I wrong?
Technically, if you're going to use a LSP, you need an LSP agreement, but maybe a one-off project, you're okay.
All right. You know what? Let's be safe. And if you're going to use them, given the heightened security it is in the OIG report, go ahead.
Right, and I think most LSPs, Bob, are going to require an LSP agreement before they do work for you.
I'll back off on that. I agree. I think Lance is right. Even with sold off, let's get an agreement, just as you would with an attorney. Finally, how much has SBA identified in potentially fraudulent PPP loans? Again, let's expand this. This is the Inspector General. This is their guess. This is their guess.
I don't need.
Take a guess, Lance.
I'm going to say 5 to 10 billion.
You're wrong. It's 4.6 billion.
Okay.
The number that is a little eye-popping, it's 70,000 loans, that's a more concern to me than the dollar amount. I do know that we are, and again, these are ones that I think Joseph has a slide on this. Joseph, bring up the fraudulent slide, would you please? There we go. These are the factors that they've identified as fraud. And nothing new on this, but false statements. We understand fraudulent supporting docs such as payroll and tax report, hurrah for Photoshop accounts established with stolen identities, corporate theft, inflation of payroll, misuse of proceeds, unqualified borrowers, and lender fraud. So nothing new with that. And some other stats, they received 40,000 complaints on their hotline. And again, they're extrapolating that, but 70,000, that's a pretty high number, Lance. I think the 4.6 billion is within the acceptable range of dollar amounts, especially a lot of that's being recovered, but 70,000, that's a high number, Lance.
Well, Bob, in respect to the total number of PPP loans, that actually is not a very big number. And that's the thing, if you are working PPP forgiveness now, you probably are thinking, there is some fraud in the PPP loan program, but when you put it in, put it in perspective, for every problem loan I see 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 good loans. So Sometimes we get hung up on the fraud side of it, and there is quite a bit of fraud, and these are all areas where it occurs, but it's still a very small percentage of the total.
And also included in there are numbers for red flags for potential fraud, businesses created after February 2020, and loans that do not match, do not pay data sources, SAM.gov. I just did a quick calculation. It's 3% on number of loans. There were over 2.4 million PPP loans made last year. So 3% is certainly within an acceptable. It's probably a little bit higher than we want, but I think that 3% is high. But anyway, but they're on it. They're on it. So fascinating report, Delaney. I know you're going to write about it. Let's bring Delaney in. Delaney, what you write about today, and give us some PPP stats. You know we love stats.
Now, this is not going to be PPP statistics. This is going to be about 7.0 and 504.
I need to look at the script here, obviously. I'm not even... Go ahead, Delaney.
Now, this is exciting news. We finally got to see the final numbers for fiscal year 2021. And I mean, it just was blown out of the water. They lent about $45 billion between the 7A and 504 lending program. And when you compare it to their best year since 2016, I would say 2017 would have been roughly their closest year, and they still only lent over 30 billion, just over 30 billion. So that's almost a 50% increase in lending numbers.
And you're going to see those numbers continue to high. I think as the lenders felt comfortable with the PPP and learned how to navigate that, the borrowers also felt comfortable. Hey, that was a pretty easy process. Let's look at 7A and 504. If SBA is doing that good of a job, and the lender is, I'm not going to be concerned about the historical horror stories that bluntly aren't there anymore.
Well, it was a huge year for SBA, a needed year to get capital out to small business, and these numbers are just astonishing, Bob. But I expect 2022 to be an equally strong year.
Absolutely, absolutely, because PPP has gone away and people still need that. So do you have another chart, Delaney?
Joseph, do we have another chart? Okay, here we go. So we do see smaller loans were not as big as previous years. We did still lend about 3.8 million or billion between loans under 150,000 up to 350,000. But I think what this tells you is that many borrowers were getting bigger loans during this time period.
Well, and a lot of them got the PPP loans, which tended to be smaller loans as well, Lance.
Yeah, Bob makes a great point. I think PPP probably hurt the under 350 lending some, but also the no guarantee fee probably enhanced the larger SBA 7A lending.
Yeah, very good. Next slide. What do we have here? Franchise, Delaney.
Yes, our franchising lending numbers were beating every year prior. The 7A lent about just under 8 billion, and then 504 lent almost $1 billion. But again, if you look at this little graph to the right, you can see how much more they lent in 2021 versus the previous 5 years.
So franchise lending, and quick calculations, was about, what, 20% of all loans, Delaney? Is that what we have?
That sounds about right, yes.
Say yes. Say yes.
Yes, that's perfect.
It appears to be correct. I think the thing that's so telling there, 8,100 7A franchise loans versus the previous high year of just over 7,000. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, franchises are becoming more and more prevalent, more and more technological. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice way to start a business, and there's a lot of support for this entrepreneur. They're not out there by themselves, so that's why franchise.
The other day we had our friend from Fran Data on, and there are some franchises that have done incredibly well during the pandemic.
Right, very good. And we will obviously, as soon as we get access to the entire database, we will update those reports and get those out. Thank you very much, Delaney. Appreciate that. We talked about the OID report. Joseph, is that, yeah, that is attached in your handout. Feel free to download that. It's not that long. It's pretty interesting reading. There's the two challenges are directly, there's only two for 7A or for lending. The rest have to do with 8A, IT, and other types of challenges in that. But the number one challenge was what you're looking at right there, the economic relief programs and that. And challenge number 4 is SBA risk management and oversight. And bluntly, I think that one probably should be a little bit higher, but they have above that IT, and they have, again, data problem in their SBA contracting issues. So it's the report card. They have a lot of work to do, but certainly nothing that is negligent, Lance. That's my opinion.
No, it was a good year for SBA, and I think all the participant lenders on here were a big part of that. You know, SBA in terms of status has continued to elevate, and you know, it's a fun thing, Bob. I think about when I first started and you told somebody you were going to do an SBA loan, you had to explain what SBA was. And now everybody across the country has an understanding of what SBA is and what they do.
Well, once they understand, they don't have to deal with anybody from the government. It makes it a little bit easier. Hey, bring up the question from Alicia. Alicia, I have purposely not addressed this, but since you asked the question, let's go ahead and go with it. Can you discuss the future effect you think will the elimination of ROBs as an equity source for small business? Now, and Alicia, I have a number of comments. Number one, this is strictly a proposal. It's in reaction to, I believe it's Peter Thiel, who has $5 billion with the B in his IRA, and the government doesn't like that. They think that's abusive, so their response is we're going to get rid of all of that as a source for equity financing. I have several. Number one, I don't think it'll go through. I have no inside knowledge of that, but that seems a little draconian. There have not been abuses in the past on this, and usually that's how Congress reacts. You're right, Alicia. One version has a clawback of 2 years, which is draconian, and that would be tough to sell. My official response is wait and see. It is a floating proposal. And it's in the middle of the sausage grinder. If I had to guess, Alicia, I don't think it'll go through, or it'll go through with limits that will not affect small business lending. Lance, do you have an opinion?
I'm very hopeful that it does not make it through, Bob, because the retirement plan rollover, the ROBs, has been an important source of equity injection for small business owners. And I think it hampers that person who worked in corporate America, you know, for 20 years and built up a nice little 401k, and now they want to get out and they want to start their own small business, but they don't have a ton of cash sitting in their checking and savings accounts. And their retirement plan is a way for them to get into an SBA loan and buy or start a small business. So,
yeah, and the reason why they could do that, you don't have the tax implication. But again, I don't, from an investment standpoint, if you're faced with an investment, do you want to invest in Amazon or you want to invest in your small business? I think the entrepreneur should have the right to decide what they want to invest in. And there's pros and cons. I certainly understand that. But when you're talking about taking money out of retirement and putting into an investment in a small business, in a lot of ways, it's no different than giving an 18-year-old kid a loan to go to school that has to be paid back. So
I absolutely agree, Bob. I think that it's just like stepping out. I've got a 401k plan that's an accumulation of years of retirement, and you know, I might go out and buy something like Tractor Supply. Well, you know, it's no different for me to invest in a small business that I want to be a part of, or buy stock in a company. So I'm hopeful this does not make it through, because I think it's a very important source of equity injection for small businesses.
Real quick, Lance, give me a 15-second elevator pitch why they need to sign their staff up for the Coleman Certified SBA Award-winning closing course, Lance.
Well, guys, this course has been around for a number of years. You know, I looked the other day, Bob. We've had in excess of 700 people, closers, that have signed up and taken this certification course over the years. We just updated it. I think it's about a month and a half, 2 months ago. But I guess the point, Bob, it's a great course for your SBA loan closer. You need to get your team involved in this training. It also, if you just had somebody who started with you in SBA lending and needs a good general SBA knowledge, it'd be a great course for them as well. But it's a good training.
On that, Lance, you did a great job. As I said, we put it up in my trade association, and Lance is on a couple of boards, so good for you. Hey, thank you all for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time. Thanks, Lance.
Have a great day.